welcome to the Money Maverick podcast, where we help each other challenge traditional financial advice. I'm Tim Turley, the host for today's episode. We're coming to you from the Money Maverick studio in Salt Lake City, Utah. We have a great discussion outlined today, but before we get into that, I wanted to let you know how you can learn more about financial principles and some of the things we talk about on the podcast. Simply go to www.uniqueadvantage.biz, and you can read all about our team and how we help people. We've got a fun discussion today. I'm here with my producer and co-host, James Thompson. How are you today, James?
I am so good.
Every day's a good day, right?
I'm ready for this conversation.
Yeah, it'll be fun. And let's get into something that we were talking about before the podcast today. We were talking about all the things that you could learn in social media and on the internet, and you brought up one topic in particular. So tell me one thing that you've seen recently about money or finance.
So the first one is, did you know that Albert Einstein said that the eighth wonder of the world is compound interest? Did you know that?
Well, I've heard that. I didn't know that.
It's
Do
true.
you know that? So where did you learn that?
It's absolutely true.
According to who?
TikTok.
Oh, what a great source of financial advice. Beautiful. So would you be surprised to know a couple things? One is, do you know that there's zero evidence that Albert Einstein ever said that?
Well, I don't believe that.
Well, if
TikTok.
If you look on social media or the internet, the legitimate sources say Albert Einstein was purported to say or allegedly said. And if you look at the legitimate outlets and websites, they'll say that there's no evidence that he actually said that. It sounds really great because wonders of the world sounds like something Albert Einstein would talk about. But just because it's on social media or the internet doesn't mean it's true necessarily, right?
Okay, but my thing is compound interest still sounds amazing.
And there is such thing as compounding, and let's talk about that. Where's the easiest place that we get compound interest? What's a really simple place where we have money where you get compound interest?
Savings account.
Right. Legitimate compounding interest. You have money in the savings account and you get, let's say, 2% a year, whatever the rate is at the time, and it compounds on top of the previous balance, right? That's legitimate compound interest. Now, what have you heard out there in your life? You're in your 30s, right? What have you heard about some financial advice to do when you're younger, when you're in your 20s and your 30s, that you should take advantage of, that Albert Einstein allegedly said? When it comes to investing, what have you heard?
Invest in the stock market.
Because to take advantage of what?
The interest rates. Or the interest.
The compounding interest.
Yeah.
Well, isn't that interesting? And you can just do a simple search on social media or the internet, and you could find 100 articles about compounding interest in the market, in the stock market. Did you know that there's one huge major problem with that no one ever talks about? Would you like to know what that is?
Yes.
So the traditional advice out there is take advantage of compounding interest in the stock market. The big problem with that is there is no such thing as compounding interest in the stock market or mutual funds. Same thing. Did you know that?
No.
You don't compound interest in a stock market account or your 401k, which is mutual funds. It's not possible because it doesn't occur. If you have a stock portfolio and you have mutual funds, equities, right, stocks or bonds or ETFs, whatever is the popular thing at the time, they simply go up in value and down in value. Like your house. What happens to the value of your house?
Well, it should go up, right?
Hopefully. When your house goes up in value, does it compound upon the previous year's value of the house, or does it just go up in value?
Goes up.
Goes up in value.
Yeah.
But it's not based on a compounding rate of what the value was the previous year, right?
Right.
So it's the same thing with the stock market. But yet you look at social media and the internet, and wherever you want to find it, you can find the magic of compound interest, which is real, but not when it comes to your house value or the stock market. Interesting, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to talk today about the difference between financial information and financial wisdom. Which would you rather have? Right out of the bat.
Wisdom.
Right, but have you ever been asked that question before? You think anybody's really asked that question? So how easy is it for somebody to find and get financial information on social media or the internet? How easy is it?
It's in an abundance. There's so much of it.
Within minutes or seconds?
Seconds.
Seconds. And is there good information on the internet and social media?
I would say about maybe 10%.
Right, but there's some good information
Yeah.
out there, right? You know,
Yeah.
So we use it for a medium of communication. But when it comes to something as important as money and financial decisions, why do you think most people believe what they hear about money on social media platforms, for example? Why do people fall for it? Why do they believe it right out of the bat, right out the gate?
I think there are a lot of things that contribute to that. I think for one, if you see a video that has a lot of views, your brain is gonna think that that's credible, because why would TikTok be showing me a video with a lot of views and likes and shares if it wasn't true? That could be one part of it.
And what if the guy or the gal doing the reel
Yeah.
is just a good-looking person
That's another part of it too.
and they have a great personality, right? So they're influencers, right?
Yeah.
So
They understand marketing.
they understand marketing very well. That's right.
Yeah.
And who else understands marketing very well? The financial who?
The banks.
The banks, the financial institutions. They're brilliant
Wall Street.
at marketing. And we like to use their products that benefit us. But you have to ask yourself a question. Who benefits by spreading the untruth that compounding interest, for example, is something you should take advantage of in the stock market? It's not true, but who benefits from people believing that?
The elites.
Yeah, the hedge funds, right? The money market accounts, the money managers, the Wall Street firms. They benefit by having people believe that they're going to take advantage of the magic
Yeah.
of something that doesn't exist, at least in that realm,
Mm-hmm.
right? So financial wisdom is having the ability, the literacy, the maturity to take all the tons of gigabytes of information out there and learn what's true and what's not true, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what wisdom is, right? Wisdom comes from learning and experience and not just believing what you hear the first time. That makes sense?
Yeah.
So, what do you think happens to somebody financially when they ask questions instead of just believing whatever they hear on the radio or TV or this podcast, right? Anything.
Mm-hmm.
When someone learns to ask further questions of something they don't understand, or if it sounds too good to be true, whatever it is, what is the benefit to somebody that just blindly invests their money somewhere without knowing what it's even about, versus someone that asks a lot of questions to truly understand and then becomes wise about the information that's coming into them? How does that benefit somebody?
So right off, someone who challenges the status quo has much more of the advantage. They're going to grow faster. They're going to learn from their mistakes a lot faster, and they're not going to end up broke.
Right? Remember we talked about last time about being uncomfortable with being broke,
Yeah.
right? So asking questions is really critical. So let's talk about some of the other stuff that you did some research
Uh-huh.
about what's out there in the Ethernet, right? In on the internet, social media. You did a little bit of research about what is some common and financial advice out there that people kind of blindly believe, or there's someone, like I said, someone's an influencer and they seem credible, they have a lot of views, and so so let's talk about a couple of things that you found that seem believable to you.
Okay.
If you're just a layperson on the street and you said that sounds right, that sounds good. So let's talk about a few of them.
Okay. So the first one is the stock market will give you, on average, 10.57% in returns.
Okay, and if we wanted to make it less specific, if you were to take a survey of 100 people on the street and you ask them the question, what do you usually hear people say about what the average rate of return is you can get on the stock market over a long period of time, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, or longer? And that number is, generally speaking, what?
About 10%.
About 10%.
Yeah.
8 to 10%. Some people say 12%. Let's just say 10%.
Sure.
Because that's a number that's thrown out there a lot. Okay. Well, let me tell you what's true, because do you think it's possible to actually get a positive average rate of return on a stock and still lose money?
Yes.
It is true, but people usually think that's impossible, right? Like, if I'm getting a 20% average rate of return on my money, how can I possibly lose money? Well,
Yeah.
that's one of the things, it's important to ask questions about and what we talk about. So, did you know that if you just talk about the average rate of return in the stock market over the last 20, 25 years, let's say, it's very attractive, right? In fact, I looked at it today, James, and the S&P 500 today, and this is December 7th, 2023. The stock market today closed at 4,585.59. That was the closing value of the market today. Okay. So 24 years ago, almost exactly 24 years ago, on January 3rd, 2000, the close of day value of the same market was 1,441.47. So that seems like a really nice gain, right? So if you just do the basic math that people are told, they say, well, the last 24 years, it's been an average rate of return of 11.9%. Doesn't that sound awesome?
Yeah.
That sounds fantastic. But if you do the calculation, the way they come up with the numbers, they meaning the financial institutions and traditional financial advisors, you have to compute that number with a compound interest calculation, which is what they do to come up with an average rate of return. Let me ask you, James, are you more concerned with the average rate of return of your money or the actual rate of return of your money?
I would say the actual.
You want to know what really happened to your money, right? After everything, including taxes, inflation, fees, right? So if you take into consideration using a compound interest calculator, which again is what the industry uses, so we're being fair and we're doing what they do,
Mm-hmm.
would you be surprised to know that the actual rate of return is 4.94% over that same period of time?
Really?
How close is that to 11.9%?
Not very.
It's not even half. Okay? And by the way, one of the things that we do with our clients is we double check ourselves with the math. And so all we simply do is, okay, if the stock market over the last 24 years actually did a true 10% actual rate of return, if that was a real number, Do you know what the stock market should have closed at today? It should have closed at 14,198. How close is that to 4,585?
Not even close.
It's not even in the same ballpark.
Right.
So it's important to understand and be wise about what the numbers really say, and understand the principles behind, right, the asset or the math or the stock or the account that we have. Ask questions. So that's one thing you found out. Okay, perfect. Okay.
Second thing.
Second thing you found out.
Let's see here. You can create passive income by opening up multiple savings accounts at different banks.
Now, you told me that you found this on TikTok, and the guy didn't just say that, right? He didn't just say you can create passive income from putting your money into a bunch of different savings accounts. He said something extraordinary. He said you can double your money if you took your savings and divided it up between two banks instead of one bank. Right? Now, you watched it. That guy sounded credible, right?
Yeah.
Believable?
Oh, yeah.
So if you didn't ask any questions or didn't think about it any further, how many people do you think listen to that advice and go up and open up 10 different savings accounts with the same amount of money? It sounds good, right?
Right.
And this guy, looked like a regular guy that had some financial knowledge, maybe.
Sure.
He presented himself well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Unlike me. Okay. So here's a couple problems with that. First of all, the math is ludicrous. You can't take $1,000 if you're earning 4% in a high yield savings account and decide to take half of the $1,000 and keep $500 in the one bank, but then you take the other $500 and open up a new account with another 4% interest rate and double your money. Right? That, I guess it sounds like a joke, but the guy was totally serious, you told me. Right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's the advice that's sitting there on social media that people are watching. Okay. Also, what is passive income? He says you can create passive income by opening up a bunch of different savings accounts and multiple accounts or money market accounts, right? So what's passive income?
That's when they write you a check, right?
Yeah, when money comes into your account, whether you're not earning it with a job, for example.
Yeah.
You're not trading time for dollars. It's an asset that you've purchased that is creating income passively. Like a real estate property, for example, an investment property, right?
Exactly.
So how in the world does 10 different savings account earning interest create passive income for you? Are you getting a check whenever that happens from the banks?
Nope.
No. So why is there so much of this advice out of there? What do you think? Like, what's going on? I mean, that's amazing. And somebody was serious. These are serious influencers on social media saying this kind of stuff.
It's hard to say. I think some people are just trying to build a following so they can market their own products or services. Maybe this guy had some type of like passive income business that he wanted to pitch to people, and so
that's interesting. If you watch this whole reel, I don't think you watched the end of it. If you did, he would have pitched probably some kind of a thing that supposedly produced passive income or some software or something, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And by the way, we don't wait till the end to pitch anything. We don't pitch anything on this podcast. It's information. We do tell people where they can get more information because people ask, but we're not trying to pitch a software at the end or some other device. Okay, so that was number 2. Okay, so that's just amazing that advice is out there. What's another one that we found?
Okay. Number 3 is young single people do not need to have life insurance.
Now, when you told me this, I did a really quick search, and this is very prevalent advice from very, very influential people out there. Okay. So there's a lot of so-called credible financial experts out there that say it's bad advice that everybody should get life insurance, or young people don't need life insurance. And by the way, why do you think these so-called experts tell people that if you're young and single, you don't need life insurance? Why do you think they're saying that? What's the defense of that argument, that premise?
That's a good question. I don't really know.
Well, young single people typically don't have what? They're young and they're single.
They don't have dependents.
They don't have dependents. So the false narrative is that the purpose of life insurance is to take care of dependents when you die.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if that was the purpose of life insurance, wouldn't you agree with that? I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Make sense? The problem is that's not the purpose of life insurance. Life insurance was misnamed. It shouldn't have been called life insurance. The real purpose of life insurance is to replace assets or income that's lost.
Mm.
So it should have been called asset replacement insurance or something like that, right? So if the purpose of life insurance is to replace an asset, and you want to always have the ability to replace an asset for the rest of your life, because right as we get older, hopefully we start purchasing assets that create passive income, which creates financial freedom. So if that's the real purpose, is replacement of an asset, then does it matter how old you are or how many kids you have or you don't have?
No.
It has nothing to do with it. So if you understand and ask questions of yourself, what is the purpose of this financial strategy or product or whatever it is? You've got to ask yourself, first of all, who benefits the most from me using or not using this? And what's the true meaning? And this is just a great example of misinforming, especially young people that don't have children yet, or they've never been married, or they're divorced and have no children. They're getting really bad information about what the true nature of life insurance is, for example. And we can talk about 100 different things. Because a young person that has no children yet, or even if they never have children, they could be missing out on a potentially very valuable tool that can help create a lot of financial freedom for them and helping them live their best life.
Mm-hmm.
And spending their money differently while they're still working, and especially after they stop working. So if you do an internet search on that and the first 50 searches are young people that are single with no dependents don't need life insurance, doesn't that sound right and good?
Sounds attractive.
It sounds attractive, right? And who likes paying money to insurance companies? Do you?
Nope.
No, who does? Who likes sending money to the auto insurance company or homeowners?
Right.
Or other types of insurances, right? So understanding the principles behind about why we make financial decisions. And is this really true, what I heard? And asking experts and asking questions so you can come up with your own answers, right? Because isn't financial freedom the act of becoming? The act of financial freedom doesn't happen by one decision. At least I don't know of any yet, right? But the art of becoming financially free comes from learning and asking questions and making more informed questions on your own, not relying blindly on the advice of outside sources, especially from the internet and social media. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So what advice would you have, James, as we kind of wrap up here? Again, just to recap what we were talking about earlier, what's the pitfall when it comes to financial advice, when it comes to the internet and social media? Why do people just believe the first thing they hear on a 2-minute reel on Facebook or TikTok?
I think the key is really to start asking questions, start asking better questions, and challenge everything. Even if it sounds legit, you got to challenge it and ask yourself, what is the motivation behind what they're saying, behind their message? Are they trying to sell me a product? Are they trying to get me into more debt? Like, right?
Exactly. That's pretty powerful. So, in other words, you're suggesting that people become money mavericks.
Yeah.
Love it. Well, that's a good way to end the discussion today. And if you haven't followed us on the Money Maverick podcast, when you're listening to this or watching it on YouTube or Spotify or any other channels that we have coming out, be sure to follow us. And we've got some really exciting updates coming up next year. We're going to have some live get-togethers next year that some of you might be interested in. And we're excited about that. Any other closing thoughts, James? Thanks for your time and doing some little research on a couple topics.
Yeah, I would just say continue to just do your own research and ask better questions, because that's how we get better at anything, is by asking better questions. So.
Yep, we're big proponents of that. Well, thank you, James, for helping me out today and having this discussion. We hope this will be valuable for you. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode of The Money Maverick.